Lieutenant Commander Alex Torres had been working on peace talks between humans and aliens for 8 months. One morning, his simple cup of coffee almost started a war between two worlds. The base called Kepler sat right between human colonies and Valkyrie territory. It was a place where both sides tried to work together instead of fighting. Big companies wanted war because it made them money, but Alex wanted peace. He believed talking was better than shooting. Meeting starts in 30 minutes, Alex said to himself. He checked his schedule and knew he needed coffee before dealing with trade routes and border problems. His coffee maker was basic, but it worked. It turned coffee beans into a hot drink that helped him wake up. Alex liked the routine. It made him feel normal even though his job involved meeting aliens every day and trying not to accidentally upset them. At least coffee is simple, Alex said quietly. He smelled the coffee and looked at his schedule. Today he would teach Zara Velnara about human paperwork and procedures. Zara was a Valkyrie who came to learn about human ways. Her job was to help both species understand each other better. The Valkyrie had super strong noses. They could smell things 50 times better than humans. This special ability evolved to help them find dangers, understand emotions through smell, and notice chemicals that humans couldn't detect. Their powerful noses were very useful, but human spaces sometimes overwhelmed them. Human technology, cooking, and even soap created so many smells that Valkyrie biology struggled to handle it all. Commander Torres, a musical voice called from his doorway. The voice had special tones that made it sound like singing. I'm sorry I came early, but I wanted to look at the paperwork before our official meeting. Alex looked up and saw Zara Velnara standing there. She seemed uncertain, like she wasn't sure if arriving early was polite or rude. Her pointed ears and the glowing patterns under her skin showed she was Valkyrie. The way she stood told Alex she really wanted to learn about humans even though it was hard. No problem, Zara. Please come. Alex stopped talking when Zara suddenly jumped back. She had just walked into his room and her powerful nose detected his coffee. Her reaction was instant and strong. She gasped and her glowing skin patterns changed colors. Alex's training told him these colors meant extreme worry or fear. Commander, she said, her voice carrying tones that showed she was analyzing chemicals Alex couldn't smell. You drink this dangerous poison every single morning. Alex stopped with his coffee cup near his mouth. His training kicked in. He recognized this as a cultural mix-up that could either help everyone learn or accidentally trigger safety alarms. It's not poison, he said carefully. Zara's fear looked real, not fake. This is coffee. It's made from plant beans. It has caffeine in it. Caffeine is a mild drug that helps me stay awake and think clearly. But the chemical readings. Zara's nose was telling her something completely different from what Alex said. The bitter chemicals, the alkaloid levels, the nitrogen compounds that mean. Suddenly, alarm systems started blaring throughout the entire base. The automated safety computers detected what looked like a biochemical emergency. They thought Valkyrie personnel were being exposed to toxins. Red lights flashed everywhere and loud beeping sounds filled the air. Warning, the base's computer announced in multiple languages. Biochemical danger detected in officer living quarters. Sanctuary protocols starting. All personnel stay away from contamination area. Alex stared at his coffee cup. Then he looked at Zara. Then he looked at the flashing red lights. The base's safety systems were treating his morning coffee like a weapon of mass destruction. This is going to be the most embarrassing cultural mistake of my entire diplomatic career, he said, realizing what had happened. Or the weirdest way anyone has ever set off emergency alarms just by drinking coffee at breakfast. The monitoring computers, Zara said with obvious concern, think you're either immune to deadly toxins or that humans deliberately hurt themselves with chemicals. They think you're a threat to Allied personnel safety. Emergency teams started rushing through the base. They thought this was the first time a human had used biochemical warfare through breakfast drinks. Alex realized his simple goal of staying awake with caffeine had just turned into explaining to two different military commands why humans deliberately consumed substances that alien bodies saw as potentially deadly poisons. The question was whether his explanation would stop an interstellar incident or accidentally create new misunderstandings. Those new misunderstandings could make coffee drinking the basis for biochemical warfare accusations that would destroy the fragile peace talks both species desperately needed. The base's emergency response created a scene that would have been funny if it weren't happening during delicate peace negotiations. Hazmat teams arrived at Alex's room wearing full protective gear. They carried equipment designed to find and neutralize chemical weapons. Meanwhile, Zara found herself at the center of what the monitoring systems thought was a biochemical protection event requiring immediate sanctuary protocols. The sanctuary alarm system, explained Base Commander Harrison during the emergency meeting that followed, has recorded Specialist Velnara's protective response to your coffee drinking as activating something called the Guardian Bond right under Valkyrie cultural law. The what bond right? Alex asked, though he was starting to suspect his morning coffee routine had created diplomatic problems way beyond a simple cultural mistake. An ancient Valkyrie protection rule that creates formal partnerships between people, Zara explained. Her glowing pattern still showed colors that meant concern mixed with curiosity. When I showed alarm about your chemical exposure, the monitoring computers thought I was claiming protective authority over your safety. So by worrying about my coffee drinking, you accidentally made me your responsibility? By showing protective concern, I accidentally triggered rules that give you temporary status in Valkyrie's social structure as my chosen defender, Zara corrected. Her tone suggested the difference might not matter as much as the words implied. The Guardian Bond creates mutual responsibility for biochemical safety and environmental protection. Alex looked around the briefing room. Both human and Valkyrie personnel were watching them with focused attention. His coffee consumption had created political consequences extending far beyond routine cultural exchange. And this automatically gives me what kind of power? Authority over my safety choices, responsibility for protecting me from chemical dangers, and shared access to Valkyrie biochemical intelligence that could affect both our species' safety, Zara answered. She pulled up displays showing the scope of authority the Guardian Bond provided, but also shared responsibility for explaining human biochemical immunity to Valkyrie personnel who might think your toxin tolerance proves you're preparing for chemical warfare. Commander Harrison activated intelligence reports that painted a disturbing picture of how the coffee incident was being interpreted by different groups. The Guardian Bond activation has triggered responses from both species' intelligence networks. Some are interpreting Lieutenant Commander Torres's apparent chemical immunity as evidence that humans have biochemical advantages that could be weaponized against alien populations. Others, added Valkyrie intelligence liaison Korvac with obvious worry, are interpreting his deliberate consumption of toxic compounds as proof that humans are systematically exposing themselves to chemical hazards to prepare for biochemical warfare against vulnerable species. Alex felt his routine coffee drinking transforming from personal habit into strategic intelligence. This could either help both species understand each other better or accidentally trigger biochemical warfare accusations that would end peace negotiations forever. The chemical compounds you consume, Zara said, her enhanced nose providing information human senses couldn't access, include alkaloids at levels that would kill Valkyrie biology. Your immunity suggests either evolutionary adaptation or deliberate conditioning to survive chemical exposures that could be used as weapons. It's evolutionary adaptation, Alex replied. He was starting to realize that explaining human biology to species whose bodies worked on different principles would need way more complex cultural exchange than his diplomatic training had covered. Humans evolved on a world where many plants developed bitter compounds as natural pesticides. Our tolerance for caffeine, alcohol, capsaicin, and other biochemically active compounds represents normal dietary adaptation, not chemical weapons preparation. But from a Valkyrie perspective, Commander Harrison said grimly, systematic consumption of compounds that would kill our allies looks like either biological superiority or deliberate chemical warfare preparation. And which interpretation serves the interests of groups that prefer our species to stay in conflict rather than developing the cooperation that successful peace negotiations would require, Korvac added. He accessed intelligence reports that revealed disturbing patterns of information manipulation. Corporate interests monitoring this incident are already promoting stories that interpret human biochemical tolerance as evidence of planned chemical warfare against alien populations. Alex examined the intelligence data. His coffee consumption was being analyzed by interests that seemed more worried about maintaining profitable conflicts than understanding human biology accurately. The Guardian Bond, Zara said quietly, provides legal standing to share accurate information about human biochemical adaptation while fighting the warfare narratives that corporate interests are promoting to destabilize peace negotiations. But only if we formalize the bond and accept mutual responsibility for protecting each other against the biochemical misinformation that corporate propaganda uses to prevent interspecies understanding. The choice, Commander Harrison said, is between formalizing a partnership that grants you joint authority to educate both species about human biology, or allowing corporate interests to use coffee consumption as evidence that humans are preparing for chemical warfare against alien allies. Alex looked at the alien woman whose protective concern for his safety had accidentally created diplomatic opportunities to fight corporate misinformation. Then he looked at the intelligence reports showing how his morning caffeine ritual was being weaponized by interests that preferred species to stay in artificial conflict. Zara, when you worried about my coffee consumption, you were trying to protect me from what your species' biology interprets as deadly chemical exposure. And when you explain that caffeine tolerance represents normal human dietary adaptation, you are trying to educate me about biochemical differences that represent evolutionary adaptation rather than warfare preparation, she replied. Her glowing patterns shifted to colors Alex was learning to recognize as hope mixed with determination. Then maybe, Alex said, reaching toward the Guardian Bond acceptance protocols, it's time we work together to ensure that biochemical education serves interspecies understanding rather than the corporate misinformation that profits from maintaining artificial incompatibility between potential allies. As they prepared to formalize the Guardian Bond that would grant them joint authority to counter biochemical warfare narratives, they also became targets for interests that preferred species to remain convinced of their fundamental incompatibility. Alex realized his simple goal of maintaining caffeine-powered alertness had evolved into protecting both civilizations from corporate manipulation designed to prevent understanding that could threaten profitable conflicts. The Guardian Bond's formalization triggered immediate responses from monitoring systems throughout both human and Valkyrie intelligence networks. Military analysts and corporate interests scrambled to control the implications of Alex's apparent biochemical immunity and the educational opportunities that accurate understanding of human dietary customs could provide. Within hours of the bonding, Alex found himself at the center of propaganda campaigns that treated his coffee consumption as either evidence of human superiority or proof of systematic chemical warfare preparation. The biochemical warfare story is spreading through both species' communication networks, Alex reported to Zara during their first joint intelligence briefing. He was using shared authority from the Guardian Bond to access information his normal clearance wouldn't have provided. Corporate interests are promoting the interpretation that human dietary customs represent covert chemical weapons development designed to eliminate alien resistance to territorial expansion. while simultaneously offering to provide protective equipment and detoxification systems that would make both species dependent on corporate biochemical technology for basic survival, Zara added. Her enhanced smell allowed her to detect stress pheromones from personnel who were being systematically misinformed about human biology. Because understanding that humans consume caffeine, alcohol, and capsaicin as normal dietary choices would undermine stories about biochemical superiority or warfare preparation that corporate interests use to maintain profitable separation? Exactly, Zara confirmed, accessing Valkyrie intelligence that revealed the scope of misinformation campaigns. Accurate biochemical education threatens corporate control over both species' understanding of compatibility and cooperation potential. The shared authority granted by the Guardian Bond was revealing information that neither species' normal intelligence gathering had been able to access. This included evidence that corporate interests had been systematically promoting biochemical incompatibility narratives to prevent the kind of scientific cooperation that could lead to genuine understanding of species differences as complementary rather than competitive. The sanctuary alarm activation has been recorded and sent to intelligence networks that are interpreting it as either proof of human biochemical immunity or evidence of systematic toxin exposure preparation, Alex realized. He accessed security protocols showing how his coffee consumption was being analyzed by interests more concerned with strategic advantage than accurate scientific understanding. And my protective response is being interpreted as either evidence that Valkyrie can identify human chemical weapons through enhanced smell analysis, or proof that our species are fundamentally incompatible due to biochemical toxicity that makes peaceful coexistence impossible, Zara added. Her glowing patterns shifted to colors that indicated controlled anger about the systematic misrepresentation of their cultural exchange. The intelligence they were gathering through the Guardian Bond also revealed that corporate agents had been monitoring the base's biochemical research, looking for opportunities to exploit scientific discoveries about species compatibility for military applications rather than educational cooperation that could facilitate better understanding. The false flag operation, Alex said, accessing tactical intelligence through their shared authority, is being designed to use biochemical warfare allegations as justification for military intervention that would eliminate inconvenient peace negotiations. Corporate operatives are planning to conduct a biochemical attack using manufactured toxins that will be blamed on human chemical warfare capabilities, Zara confirmed. Her enhanced nose was detecting chemical traces that suggested preparation for systematic poisoning designed to trigger military responses. The attack will target Valkyrie personnel using compounds that mimic the biochemical signatures of human dietary chemicals. This will create evidence that human coffee consumption was preparation for chemical warfare against vulnerable alien populations, while eliminating witnesses who could testify that the biochemical attack used corporate manufactured toxins rather than human dietary compounds. Zara's expression grew serious as she accessed intelligence about planned elimination of educational personnel who might counter the biochemical warfare narratives. The Guardian Bond provides protection and authority that corporate interests can't easily bypass through assassination or misinformation, Alex said. He looked around the intelligence facility. Their shared authority was revealing security vulnerabilities and corporate infiltration that normal monitoring systems had been designed to miss. The choice between revealing the truth about human dietary customs and allowing the biochemical warfare story to persist isn't just about educational accuracy, he said, understanding the true stakes for the first time. It's about whether peace negotiations survive corporate manipulation designed to ensure profitable conflicts rather than successful cooperation. The formal Guardian Bond ceremony grants us joint educational authority while providing protection against elimination attempts that target personnel who might expose corporate biochemical misinformation, Zara said. Her glowing patterns displayed colors Alex was learning to recognize as determination mixed with protective resolve. But formalizing the bond also makes both of us permanent targets for interests that profit from maintaining biochemical incompatibility narratives. Alex examined the evidence of systematic misinformation. Then he looked at the alien woman whose protective concern had created opportunities to counter corporate propaganda about human biology and species compatibility. Zara, when you showed alarm about my coffee consumption, you were responding to biochemical information that your enhanced senses interpreted as evidence of toxin exposure. And when you explained caffeine tolerance as normal human dietary adaptation, you were providing educational information that could help both species understand biochemical differences as evolutionary adaptation rather than warfare preparation, she replied. She accessed educational protocols that could counter corporate misinformation about species compatibility. Then maybe it's time we used our joint authority to ensure that biochemical education serves accurate understanding rather than the corporate propaganda that profits from convincing species they're fundamentally incompatible, Alex said. He reached toward the formal bonding protocols that would grant them permanent educational authority. Even if it means explaining to both civilizations that coffee consumption represents normal human behavior rather than evidence of chemical weapons development. Especially if it means preventing corporate interests from using biochemical misinformation to justify military intervention that serves profit margins rather than either species' actual security or territorial needs, Zara agreed. As they prepared to formalize the guardian bond that would grant them joint authority to counter biochemical warfare narratives, they also became permanent targets for corporate interests that preferred species to remain convinced of their artificial incompatibility. Alex realized his simple goal of maintaining morning alertness through caffeine consumption had evolved into protecting both civilizations from misinformation designed to prevent understanding that could threaten profitable conflicts. The false flag biochemical attack started during the formal Guardian Bond ceremony. Corporate operatives released manufactured toxins designed to mimic human dietary chemical signatures while targeting Valkyrie personnel in a coordinated assault that would justify military intervention and eliminate inconvenient peace negotiations. The ceremony itself took place in the base's biochemical research facility. Alex and Zara used their shared authority to expose the corporate conspiracy while demonstrating that human biochemical tolerance represented evolutionary adaptation rather than chemical weapons preparation. Corporate agents are releasing synthetic toxins throughout the Valkyrie quarters, Alex reported through their shared intelligence access. Sabotaged ventilation systems began distributing chemical compounds designed to appear as weaponized versions of human dietary chemicals. The attack is coordinated to create evidence that human coffee consumption was preparation for systematic poisoning of alien personnel. The chemical signatures are artificial, Zara confirmed. Her enhanced nose allowed her to distinguish between genuine human dietary compounds and corporate manufactured toxins that mimicked their biochemical properties. The attack uses synthetic alkaloids designed to kill Valkyrie personnel while appearing to come from human dietary chemistry. The Guardian Bond ceremony proceeded with corporate agents already distributing toxins throughout the facility. Their attacks were coordinated to exploit the biochemical warfare narratives that systematic misinformation had been promoting to both species' intelligence networks. Alex and Zara conducted their vows while simultaneously coordinating the exposure of corporate conspiracy to personnel who had been operating under deliberately corrupted information about human biochemical compatibility and dietary customs. Alex Torres, he said as biochemical scanners confirmed his permanent integration with Valkyrie protection protocols, accept the Guardian Bond with the understanding that educational cooperation serves accurate understanding rather than the corporate misinformation that profits from artificial species incompatibility. And Zara Velnara, she replied, her consciousness now permanently linked to his through bonding protocols that created unprecedented cooperation between human and Valkyrie biochemical intelligence, confirm the bond and commit to educational sharing that serves both species' understanding rather than the corporate propaganda that maintains profitable conflicts through systematic misinformation. The ceremony's completion activated Valkyrie protection protocols while simultaneously broadcasting educational information about human biology to both species populations. This revealed that coffee consumption represented normal dietary behavior rather than evidence of chemical warfare preparation or biochemical superiority designed to eliminate alien resistance to human expansion. The investigation that followed exposed corporate agents throughout both species' intelligence networks. It led to the arrest of war profiteers who had been promoting biochemical incompatibility narratives. New educational protocols were established for sharing accurate information about species differences as evolutionary adaptation rather than evidence of warfare preparation or fundamental incompatibility. 6 months later, Alex found himself working as the chief of interspecies biochemical education aboard the joint human-Valkyrie research vessel Discovery. His military experience and Guardian Bond authority ensured that cultural exchange programs included accurate information about human dietary customs rather than corporate misinformation designed to maintain profitable separation. The biochemical education protocols are operating successfully across all frontier territories, he reported to Zara, who now coordinated interspecies scientific cooperation while maintaining their shared authority to counter corporate misinformation about species compatibility. No corporate propaganda campaigns, no biochemical warfare allegations, and definitely no coffee-related diplomatic incidents. The cultural exchange programs are exceeding enrollment expectations, Zara confirmed. Her glowing patterns showed colors that Alex's enhanced understanding recognized as deep satisfaction mixed with amusement. Valkyrie students are particularly fascinated by human dietary diversity and the evolutionary adaptations that enable consumption of biochemically active compounds. The evening routine they developed involved reviewing educational curricula while sharing the kind of biochemical analysis that had become natural through months of bonded partnership. Alex could access Zara's enhanced smell insights while she could benefit from his understanding of human dietary evolution. This created a level of scientific cooperation that transcended anything either species had imagined possible. Any regrets about accidentally triggering alien protection protocols through routine coffee consumption? Alex asked. Only, Zara said with a smile that had become his favorite aspect of their shared consciousness, that it took a biochemical misunderstanding and corporate conspiracy for both our species to discover that dietary differences represent opportunities for scientific cooperation rather than evidence of warfare preparation or fundamental incompatibility. The best educational breakthroughs, Alex replied, are always the ones that transform misunderstandings into opportunities for genuine learning about differences that enhance rather than threaten cooperation. As they settled into the shared research planning that had become their evening routine, a practice that combined biochemical education with scientific cooperation that protected both species from corporate misinformation, Alex reflected on the journey from routine coffee consumption to partnership with someone whose enhanced biochemical awareness complemented his understanding of human dietary evolution in ways that benefited both their species' scientific advancement. You know, he said, feeling their shared understanding of biochemical compatibility settling into the peaceful synchronization that marked successful educational cooperation. When I started drinking coffee every morning, I thought I was just maintaining alertness during complex diplomatic negotiations. And now? Now I realize I was accidentally providing educational opportunities about human biochemical adaptation that could help both our species understand that dietary differences represent evolutionary advantages rather than evidence of chemical warfare preparation or species incompatibility. Alex paused, accessing their shared knowledge of how completely their educational and personal partnership had integrated. It's either the most successful accidental biochemical education program in diplomatic history, or the most elaborate way anyone's ever discovered that species differences can enhance cooperation when corporate interests aren't allowed to weaponize them for profitable conflicts. Why not both? Zara replied, her consciousness touching his with the partnership that had become the foundation of their collaboration. Though I prefer to think of it as the most successful protection protocol ever activated. One where both the Guardian and the Protected discovered that the most important safety comes from accurate understanding rather than the misinformation that corporate interests use to maintain artificial incompatibility between potential allies. The best biochemical education, Alex agreed, is always the education that reveals compatibility rather than manufacturing incompatibility for external profit.